Okay, welcome everyone to this next RICS Tech Partner video discussion. I'm really glad today to have Dominik Brunner join me from GIF in Germany. So I guess initially, Dominik, it'd be great to hear about a bit of your backstory and a bit about GIF as an organization, so we can understand the context.
Okay, so my name is Dominik Brunner. I lead a boutique real estate advisory company with the name of Aurelio, and we advise clients mainly in the German-speaking area on selection and implementation of IT solutions only in the real estate space. On a pro bono basis, I'm engaged at the Society of Property Researchers, known as GIF, which has a goal of setting standards, not only for real estate IT, but all across the real estate industry. This organization has a long history of a couple of decades, and the goal is a Society of Property Researchers, so it's an academic organization, but the goal is to link academia and practice. And one example where this happens is this real estate IT working group that I have the pleasure of leading. But there are also other examples, like a standard on counting footfall in shopping centers, standards for area measurements, valuation standards, etc., etc.
So it sounds like a very, very broad set of activities that GIF has looked at over the years, and as you say, and out from that core aim has become this specific focus, obviously now on IT and digitalization. So
yeah. So the GIF started with the standards for data exchange somewhere around 2009. Before that, the real estate IT topic was not on the table. GIF was one of the first organizations in the real estate scene to think of that. The group was very small to start with and only focused on data exchange between property and asset managers. And then this group did grow and grow, and we did have document management methodologies embedded, more areas of data exchange, build of a digital twin, a build-up of data intelligence. And for that, we have assembled a couple of other members that report into my group that can elaborate on more detailed on that.
So Dominik, could you give me an idea of the range of people who participate in all these groups?
Yeah, so what is very important for our organization is that we do have a breadth and a depth. So that we do have representatives of different groups. So we have in our groups, in our working groups, we have representatives from asset holders. Some of them are here assembled, from services like property managers, like funds, like real estate investment trusts. But of course, as always, there are also consultants on boards, and important for us also software companies. So we do have a colorful arrangement of different people with different background, which is important to ensure the quality of what we do, but also to ensure that our standards can be adopted on a broad scale.
Indeed. I believe that the first person we're going to talk to is Dirk around data standards.
Yes, exactly. So Dirk did take over the lead of the data standards group 1 year back. I'm very happy that we do have him on board, and he will be able to explain more details on the data exchange and digital twin standards.
Indeed, that's great. Well, let's bring Dirk on. So, Dirk, before we get into the detail of the data standards piece, it'd be great to have just a quick introduction for your background for us.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. So my name is Dirk Rathlev, and I'm heading together with my colleague Matthias Kaufold the project group Data Exchange at the GIF, and we are still working since a lot of years on a get exchange standard format for different purposes, and I would like to explain it a little bit more in detail in the next few minutes. And so we are currently a group of different companies, different market participants, and that's more or less the reason why we are saying yes, we can identify, we can develop a kind of formats, as kind of standards for the market, to the fact that we are the market. So we are combining different huge market participants like Patrizia, like CBRE we see here in the call, but also smaller companies. And what is very important for our work, there's a lot of IT service provider in our project group, so that they are able to develop interfaces, that they're able to work together and just can see how they are transfer data from one system to another system, and can also give us some feedback for the further development of our data standards.
Thanks, Dirk. Now, I believe November last year, GIF published the third version of the data exchange format. Can you give me a bit of background and explanation on what's behind this most updated format version?
So the most, what we did in this the last 1.5 years is to especially what I mentioned, to integrate all the feedbacks and reviews from different market participants. So we have, or we started in the past to identify who is working with other participants together, who is sharing data, who should provide data to a fund manager, an asset manager, and so on. And this was the starting point. And now what currently we are working, shaping the edges, create new data attributes, integrate new trends like ESG data, but also reflecting the different requirements from the regulatory authorities like ESG, taxonomy, SFDR, and other new reporting formats provided by different stakeholders at the market.
Thanks,
and
Dirk.
we also, sorry.
No, carry on, Dirk.
Yeah, and what we're also doing is to working together with the IT service provider to identify new trends on this side. So I think this is something Fabian and Marcelo can also explain a little bit later, how they work with these standards and how they can integrate these data in their further development in their AI environmental.
So you talk about these subsets, and I think ESG is obviously a clearly important one. What do you see? What's the industry's reaction in terms of how they see the value of this? Because this is all about value, isn't it? In terms of making the industry, removing friction. What are you hearing from the industry in terms of how they're going to use these?
This is very important for us. So we do not create an academic output and to create a new website with data standards, and no one is working with this. So what we are currently doing is to identify the needs of the market and also the pain of the market. So what we identified is that the most issue is quality, and to be in a really tight schedule, provide data with a completeness and a high quality as well. So what we did is identify mandatory fields and also optional fields to say, okay, these fields are very important for all participants at the market. And then there's a lot of other attributes which might be optional, but this is something the sender and the receiver for data have a standard platform to discuss all these requirements and expectations. So what we saw in the past is maybe talking about what is contractual rent, or what is an lettable area maybe. So all participants in the past had different expectations what they want to have, and to be honest, especially the IT service provider identify or implemented kind of own standards, own definitions in their systems. And what we did is to harmonize all these definitions and to create one standard for the market. And this is, I think, the most increasing value for data exchange what we saw in the past. And we had a lot of really successful implementation of the GIF standard, not only in Germany. We also see a lot of participants with investments in the European Union, in the United States, but also in Asia, working with our GIF standard. So it's, yes, of course, it's much more work to explain what we want to have and how we integrate the data. And of course, there's a lot of discussion in regard of the completeness of data we would like to integrate, but it is a starting point. And so we have a clear definition. We have the definition in German and in English, and it's an open standard. So you can use the GIF homepage as a member of the GIF, or you can also buy this, the catalog and the definitions. So it's completely open, not only for the German market, but also for international property manager, asset manager, and fund manager as well.
Indeed, and I suppose it's an obvious comment to make, isn't it? But so many of your clients in Germany will have international portfolios, so for them to only look at it from a German perspective is perhaps only half of the story for them in terms of understanding that consistent data across their portfolio.
Absolutely, and this is also the reason why for us it is very important to work together with an organization like EUROS or Fiji, Oscar in the United States or in France. So this is also part of our work to not only sit in our own silos, but also to open our platform, open our standard, and map the data with your standards, with your kind of definitions. And we know, of course, that the RCIE standard is really common in Asia and of course in the United States as well.
Indeed. So thinking ahead, I mean, certainly from my perspective and all the conversations I have, the sense of having, proper structured digital data that's of a high quality and is standardized is only going to become even more important and really a kind of a key almost currency in terms of looking at real estate. How do you see the data standard progressing and evolving? What are your plans for the foreseeable future, Dirk?
So at the moment, I'm really happy that we see that the number of market participants working with our standard is definitely increasing. So we also see that a lot of the IT service provider implemented the interface from GIF for different subsets like property manager, asset manager, evaluator, fund on fund to fund reporting. And what we see now is that the standard is definitely established at the market. And for the future, we see that we need more convenience. So we want to implement an API so that the current status that we need an IT service provider who can upload data, you can maybe convert data, that these services are fully integrated in our API. And we also develop an SQL database with all our attributes. So the possibility to create a commercial digital twin for the market is also implemented. And we are still working on these elements to create kind of ecosystem for real estate data, including all the other markets research information we will hear a little bit later from Fabian and Marcelo. But what we also do is currently working on new ESG data attributes, not only the base, but also for social aspects, for governance aspects, and for with the integration of other benchmark systems like GRESB or eCore in Germany, MSCI, and other service provider. And we also working on different adjustments on the valuation part, not only for the German standards, but also for the DCF model. So we have a lot of other subsets in progress currently, property management handover subsets, technical requirements. This is something with different participants at the market, like property manager, but also facility manager are currently working together with us in our project group to create a broader picture of all data we would like to exchange from one participant to another.
Well, that was great to talk to Dirk there and understand that work on data standards. And now I'd like to chat to Fabian and Marcelo about the data intelligence piece. But perhaps first you could give me a bit of an introduction for your roles in GIF and a bit of your background. So perhaps starting with you, Fabian.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. My name is Fabian Sonnenburg. I'm the head of data intelligence for CBRE Germany. And at the same time, I founded together with Marcelo within the GIF competency group of data management. We founded the project group for data intelligence. But probably first handing over to you, Marcelo.
Thanks,
Thank you, Fabian. Thank you, Andrew. Marcelo Cajias, my name. I'm working as head of data intelligence at Patrizia, and we manage and apply, let's say, technologies throughout all our assets across Europe, and very happy to share our insights here.
That's brilliant. Well, I guess it sounds like a stupid question for me to ask, but I guess I'd be keen to understand what we mean by data intelligence.
For me, that is, so to say, a term that covers everything that contributes to, so to say, decision support with data-driven methodologies, with different data sources that the market has to offer. So in the context of real estate, I would see that as the driver behind what we can see in the market, that the different actors collect all the data they need in new modern data platforms. Either they build them on their own or they work with external vendors to do that. At the end, to get all the value out of their own data assets, and also buy commercial sources, integrate open source sources to have the best possible foundation for their business. So that is the overall task.
And what is your working group actually going to do? What's the work stream look like in terms of the work and the activities?
First of all, we are quite a new group, so we have been founded in January this year. We were born based on that already mentioned competency group data management. So that was the first circle of people that discussed the topic. And out of the network of those people, our first range of participants was born. And the vision was that we first exchange on the status quo of data intelligence in the German real estate industry, and then work together on a specific output that is a publication that will be released very soon in the name of the GIF. And that is called data intelligence to support data-driven decisions. And there will also be an event happening on the 15th of September. And that will also deal with that issue.
So one question I'd like to ask is almost the sort of the why, from the kind of perspective of the market and the kind of signals you're seeing about the problems, but I guess also the opportunities of having data intelligence. What's the kind of market view of the need for the work you're doing?
Well, I think, yeah.
Please.
I think it's we see a lot of different data-related technologies evolving everywhere. We have a wide landscape of vendors of potential technologies you can use, and for a real estate decision maker that is probably not native in IT issues, it's very hard to determine the next steps from his or her perspective, right? So it's more or less a bottom-up process where we have fields of engagement where we have enough data in a better quality. So we were talking about data quality in the previous statement already. Plus a fit between the problem that the business is facing and the methods we have, so to say, in academia, right? And that was the primary purpose, that we go from where we are and identify those fields where we can add with data intelligence today already a lot of value to the industry, right? And that is not a full-blown 1,000-page piece. That is a shorter 50-page piece that gives you some overarching, so to say, training on data intelligence, on data itself, cloud-based platforms, etc., everything that you need to know from a decision maker perspective, plus snapshots from, so to say, best practice snapshots from the industry of people that are highly engaged in that. that matter, right? And that gives you, as a real estate decision maker, a quick introduction and enables you to start thinking, start networking, start to have internal workshops, start to engage with external people in an informed and targeted manner.
And moving to you, Marcelo, what are your thoughts on that kind of market need, that problem that you're solving with this working group?
Well, thank you. I think in addition to what Fabian mentioned, the idea and the vision of data intelligence is to build upon every step throughout the data value chain. So I think we listened to Dirk mentioning that he's in charge of defining and trying to understand and organize the data that is available in the market. Well, at Data Intelligence, we are working with all the repositories of data sources. That means we are connecting geographic data with economic data, with social data. And I think the most important value add of data intelligence is the application into a strategy, either existing or a new investment strategy, which is, let us run a wholesale analysis. What are we doing right, where, how, and when? And this is the part where we call, or let's say differentiate between analyzing the market and the data and providing intelligence to real estate investment decisions. So I think this is, let's say, the USP and the vision we currently have for the overall topic of data intelligence. There is, I think, no user manual for data intelligence. This is more or less a mix between what we have learned and what we see in academia, which is very much about the statistics, and the problems related to the industry. And the industry is pretty diversified. And we believe in the middle between both worlds, there is the true data intelligence vision that would be applying technology, ideas, and methods to our way of managing real estate.
Now, Fabian mentioned that this is a fairly new working group. So what sort of progress have you made so far? What are the kind of future developments you see happening with this, what are clearly a very exciting and very important new working group?
I think what we have so far in the publication we will publish or will be released in a couple of weeks is that the industry is going into the right direction. I think we have solved some issues when it comes to data integration, data definition, and let's say mixing data. And what we have, I think, clearly realized is that we are all, both brokers and investment managers, going into the same direction, which is we have solved the data problem, and now we need to analyze and understand the data. And throughout this travel, we saw that there were specialized companies and specialized parts of the business that are dealing with very specific questions. And to give you just one example, we realized, for example, that there is a market clustering algorithms that are trying to understand Germany from a very macro perspective. At the same time, we discovered that in the market, there are providers of location intelligence trying to divide Germany into 10,000s of pieces and trying to create scoring systems. So I think the picture is very diversified when it comes to where do we put the intelligence in the real estate industry.
Indeed. No, and I suppose reflecting on a lot of conversations I have in other markets, it's good to hear that you've hopefully solved some of those initial problems of joining data sets together and beginning to aggregate, because so often I've seen in markets that the information is scattered in silos in either government agencies or private bodies, and it can be quite hard even to agree the kind of identifiers for property and land. Is that something that you think is now in a much better place in the German market?
Indeed, I think we have learned where to find the data. We are in the process of merging the data, and perhaps we're now better in a better position than 10 years ago to ask the right questions about, we are missing these data points. Who is the one collecting this in the market, or who should connect this data type into the market? That means we have, or after we have been able to connect all the pieces available, and now trying to find a solution of, or perhaps the problems for the next 10 years that would be, let us look at this specific data sets into the market. And perhaps just one point from our experience, which is we need to go outside of our comfort zone and understand that outside of the industry, there are data sources available that can be definitely used to support real estate strategies. And this not only involves Google Maps and the big players, but other very local specific data that is, let's say, the world we're living in. So we need to work with non-real estate data.
Indeed, no, I think that's a very important point, isn't it? Particularly when you think about the drivers of value now, that there are these other data points, other attributes which people either instinctively or explicitly look at when they think of value. Well, that's been really insightful. Thank you so much, Fabian and Marcelo. So I think now it's time to move on. I think to talk to Rolf. I think around the DMS project, if we may. But thanks very much for that insight on the data intelligence. So, Rolf, once again, but before we go into detail of the DMS project, a bit of an introduction from yourself, if I may.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Andrew. My name is Rolf Kollmannsperger. I'm working at the strategic data management at Union Investment. And here within the GIF context, I'm working together with Sascha Donner and Markus Klug for the field of data rooms and document management systems.
So from that point of view, it'd be great to hear what you think the kind of challenges and opportunities around this whole kind of document management data room piece is, and obviously what GIF is trying to achieve here.
Yeah, our dreams would be that we only receive data and well-defined and structured data, but reality is, especially in the real estate industry, documents are still a big part of our job. And so we need to organize how we handle documents in a effective and efficient way. And our overall goal is to establish a kind of market standard that each business partner within the market can exchange documents in a very efficient way. And we hope that within this GIF initiative, we come a little bit forward towards this goal.
So I suppose in many ways it's a very obvious why, as in terms of the benefits of getting the ability to exchange documents in a standardized way. What kind of sort of functions are you trying to build in that will make this process much more streamlined and effective? Because, as you say, the real estate industry is still very document driven, and so much information is either hidden away in documents or are in documents that perhaps aren't classified and called the right kind of names to understand where you can find the data.
Yeah, our approach, we start usually with a static hierarchy, kind of index-based way how documents are organized. And this is really easy to understand for every participant. But on the other hand, you will not find a common approach on this, because once you get more than one party, everybody has different assumptions how the best way to organize these documents. So our approach is to get away from this static hierarchy and rather go to a kind of network structure, defining different what we call dimensions, so that the end user is able to filter to its purpose the document portfolio and come closer to the search documents. And this also has the advantage that it is easy to adapt and easy to enhance in contrast to a static hierarchy, what we face right now in terms of ESG and other initiatives, that it's really difficult to enhance a static structure in an efficient way. And so the approach with a network structure is seems to be much easier and better.
Does that kind of network approach also help some of the challenges that I know we talked about earlier in terms of international, where you're getting documents that will be perhaps specific to a jurisdiction in terms of planning or tax or those kind of things? Does that help as well with that ever increasing need to look at documents that are coming from different jurisdictions?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to have, like Dirk said early on, to have a kind of exchange schema for different organizations like Fiji, like your organization, that we have a kind of mapping approach and can enhance our own structure towards a different one.
So what's the status of this work group and kind of future developments? And I guess maybe it's a big jump to talk about this next piece, but this idea of using perhaps natural language processing to try and extract structured data from documents. What does the future look like for your work stream and your working group?
I think the first approach is really to establish document classes to understand what the context of a document is about, and then to describe and define such a context by these dimensions or other attributes. And this makes it much easier to in terms of traversing such a document portfolio or searching documents. And especially once we only have data in the future, you still need this kind of context in which these data are organized.
And what will be your next steps, do you think, in terms of once you've established this baseline of functionality?
Well, we started with document classes within the property business, and we enhanced this towards SPV level or PropCo level, and also to the fund perspective or the actual owner perspective. And we also introduced or enhanced several domains which are not within the property level, but are surrounded by this. And this gives us the chance to still have the same structure and enhance it step by step. And so the whole structure is iteratively increasing.
Well, that sounds great. And as you said, it still remains a sector where documentation in this form is going to be with us for some time. So it's clearly very important that we have this kind of, as you say, these classes and these dimensions to enable these documents to be handled. So that's great to hear. So thanks very much. I think it's back to you, Dominik, now, and it'd be great to talk about some of the other activities that GIF is involved in and the other working groups.
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Before coming to that, I would like to expand a bit on the scope of what Rolf just mentioned.
Yeah.
So all the elaborates from the project groups that we have heard about, they are publicly available. They're reviewed and then publicly available. It's all the work that we do in this organization is reviewed on a very detailed level by a lot of personnel from academia and also from practice. We do have several review rounds that ensures good quality of our output. This is important. But the output is there. So what Rolf mentioned, that's now, I think, version 2.2. Dirk mentioned before their version 3.0. So we work like in software releases in different versions, and usually release a new version once a year or so. Very roughly spoken. That's publicly available. If you're a member of that organization, it costs you, I think, 200 euros per year. If not, one guideline is 50 euros, 100 euros or something like that, which is really a pro bono basis. It's not something we earn a living of course. We just want to assure that those guidelines do have a certain value to the public. Usually most downloads are made from our members because the organization is an assembly of the most important players in the scene. So you mentioned what are other working groups in the organization. The organization is not only about real estate IT. In fact, when we started our group 2009 or so, we were a small group, and it was pretty tough to establish in the organization that we deserve a group for real estate IT. Back then, those were the times. Those bits and bytes have nothing to do with real estate, but in this organization, quality is always welcome, and that was the path to our success. Other groups are, for instance, setting standards for area measurements. That's something that is at heart of RICS as well. Indeed. With the IPMS, so the area measurement group works closely together with RICS on this IPMS standard. But there was a time before IPMS. And in fact, this area measurement standard is now embedded in contracts all across Germany. One has to say Germany except Bavaria, but still that's a huge market where this is a de facto standard for service charge reconciliations, but also for rental agreements. Then, of course, as everywhere, we do have ESG, our own working group for that. We cooperate with them on a very close basis. And then, not to forget, when one talks about Germany, always a couple of sentences later, you have the word valuation mentioned. Which is very particular to this geography and therefore has our own working group where also standards are elaborated. And the coordination between this working group and Dirk's group is very important, as we also embed basic data that has to be exchanged for valuation and also stored in the digital twin.
Indeed. And I know some of your colleagues have mentioned other organizations that you've been clearly working with. Can you perhaps give us a bit of a sense of the kind of other organizations that you're embedding these various working groups with? Because once again, this is an international asset type and it's hard to do anything in isolation.
Yeah. Of course, as a good member of RICS, I have to mention the RICS first and foremost as our international counterpart. Andrew, you know, we are cooperating on the publishing of our guidelines with you. I think it proved very worthwhile. What also is important to us is the cooperation with smaller other organizations like Fiji in France. Dirk has mentioned it before. In France, the Fiji organization is for real estate IT standards and does have in some areas already a nearly statutory type. For instance, when you make a real estate transaction, the way you store documents is described by Fiji, and you have to store those documents right at the notary, and this we do reflect in the data management standard. But also for data exchanges. A part of that, of course, we cooperate with organizations in Germany, the Central Real Estate Organization, CIA, but also on the international basis, OSCRE. You might know they have been very important a couple of years back. On the status today, I'm not so sure, but we have a cooperation with them ongoing. And one very interesting platform as well is RICS in the Netherlands, which is used for real estate data exchange as well. So just to mention the most important organizations we cooperate with.
Indeed. Well, thanks to all of you. It's been a fascinating insight into the work that GIF is doing. But for today, thanks all for your time, and I look forward to catching up again in the future.
Thank you, Andrew.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.